ladies and gentlemen, we've got another update in regards to the Epstein situation. Trump now reportedly growing frustrated with having to defend Bondi, her handling of the situation, having to answer all these questions. You can take a look and see the headline: Trump frustrated at having to take the heat for Bondi's handling of the files. White House officials and other Trump allies said that the president, not the attorney general, has been the one having to answer questions about Epstein, while Bondi has kind of skirted by. Now, that's not to say the public is, at least on the Republican side, blaming Trump over Bondi. Certainly, Bondi's taken a lot of heat. A lot of people think Trump should get rid of Bondi. We saw last week Megyn Kelly and others say Bondi is the scapegoat. She should be the one that gets fired, and the situation would be, at least to some degree with the base, fixed. Now, obviously, there's a bigger problem outside of Bondi, and that's really what I want to discuss today. When you look at the situation, we can say that, and you have to wonder, what does Trump mean here in terms of he's frustrated in terms of the questions he's getting? I would imagine he's angry that people now are insinuating, and we've seen this first with Musk and now with the Wall Street Journal and the Democrats. They're saying, well, he's hiding the files because he's in them, and he went to the island and he engaged in these horrible, heinous acts, which is just completely ridiculous considering he's the most vetted candidate probably in U.S. political history, running 3 times. It makes no sense, especially when you consider the vendetta Democrats have against him, elevating all the misdemeanors to felonies. But, oh, we've got this huge golden goose that we're not going to release because we're worried it might incriminate Bill Clinton. Get real. Come on. Doesn't make any sense. So you have to take that into account. But Trump now apparently a little bit angry with Bondi. I don't think Trump is going to get rid of Bondi. We can speculate on why that is. Some people saying, well, he's got an affinity for Bondi. He wants to keep her. Whatever it is, it does seem like he's really, outside of maybe this initial leak that we're seeing, he's had really respect for Bondi, and he stood by her as the AG, even though people say, and this is the ultimate speculation, and really this is what it comes down to. When Bondi said she had the files, it was all on her desk, it was to review, it was for review, and then, for it to be released. Obviously, at that point, one of 2 things. Either number one, or maybe one of 3 things if we're being charitable, but one of 2 things. Number one, you've got the files, they're about to be released. Obviously, if you tell the public, there's going to be anticipation and there's going to be people expecting things. And so Bondi probably thought, well, this is what we're going to release. And then behind the scenes, something happened, whether it's blackmail against Trump, whether it's blackmail against somebody Trump knows, whether it's other information coming forward. Something happens behind the scenes. They tell Bondi, the stuff that you just promised you were going to release, all that stuff that you said was on your desk, that's not going to be released now. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is Bondi, I guess, lied, which why would you lie about saying you have stuff? Why would you create a phase 1 if there's not going to be a phase 2? Why would you give the base all this hope and then just say, oh, no, you know what? We're not going to release anything. It makes no sense. And now they're unsealing court documents and they're saying this is going to fix it. And many people are speculating, well, there's nothing really in the documents that's going to change anything. And maybe they try and drum it up and say, well, just focus on this and see we did it. And Trump's already coming out saying it's no matter what I do, the base is not going to be happy. That's acting like a 13-year-old girl when you say that. Really? That's what Trump's going to say. No matter what I do, the situation's been flubbed by your administration. You need to just admit that. I mean, I guess you can admit that because it's going to be a sign of weakness, but still, it's like there has to be some accountability for this. And with Trump, it seems like, even with him now releasing or having Bondi unseal this, and now it goes to the court and they have to do it, he's even almost protesting that and saying, well, they're forcing me to do it, whatever. The base wants it. So it just does not look good. And, it is a uniparty issue. There certainly are a lot of Democrats involved in this. Depending on what you think about, well, Trump's involvement in the Wall Street Journal and that letter and just how ridiculous it was. Liberals were trying to run with it. They were missing the plot. That's what we were trying to explain. The Trump people don't think Trump was on the island and engaged in these terrible acts. It doesn't make any sense. It's not like Trump to do that. If you know Trump, you know the history. Trump's the one that originally brought the Epstein stuff to the forefront. If Trump was guilty of going to the island, do you really think he would be the one to bring up the topic back in 2015 at the start of his political career? Does that make much sense at all? See, that's what a lot of these people are forgetting and not understanding because they have such an acute understanding of Epstein. Just like CoffeeZilla, where he makes these boomer videos with boomer thumbnails. The thumbnail's it's a Trump tweet. That's the thumbnail. And he's like, oh, we're going to analyze all of this. And it's like, dude, Do you understand that Trump originally brought Epstein up? So you're going to sit there and make all these videos. I'm not saying, but I'm insinuating. It's like, I'm not touching, I'm not touching, I'm not touching you. We do this the same thing over and over again. First it was Elon Musk. Oh, he's in the files. So you're insinuating that he engaged in terrible acts. Let's be honest. That's how Democrats are going to take it when you say that he's in the files. That could mean 100 of different things. We know Trump had a relationship with Epstein. Epstein had a relationship with all the big name billionaires and multimillionaires in New York City. So it's like this huge, it's this huge revelation. Trump is in the files. We know you're insinuating, and it's open for interpretation. And then you've got Wall Street Journal pushing this weird thing. It's like paraphrasing from Trump and Epstein. It doesn't even make sense, the letter. It's like, who writes a letter in third person and then I don't even know what it is. If you look at it, it's very odd. But then they say, ooh, Trump drew a naked woman, and then Trump denies drawing a naked woman, and they're like, we've investigated it. He once did a doodle of a skyscraper, so that means he's lying. Like, really? We're going to do this? Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I guess we're going to do this, huh? But that's where we're at with the situation. And so, listen, it's been handled poorly. We understand that, but this is it's a miscalculation by liberals. The Republican base was not mad because we thought Trump was covering it up for himself. We think Trump is covering it up for other people. And we also think the administration has been terrible in terms of the strategy behind bringing this out. And you can say, well, this is a huge thing. It needs to come out. And no, I agree. I think it is something that needs to come out. And if they're covering for Israel, it's very bad. And it's more of a uniparty thing. And there's obviously a lot of money involved and a lot of things happening behind the scenes that we're not privy to. And so we understand that. But now it seems like Trump is getting very upset with just the backlash that he's gotten. And now I'm guessing it's probably trickled down to him. You would think after last week and even on Truth Social, he was getting a bunch of backlash from his own supporters. You'd think he'd be like, oh, this is not very good. But now it seems like he's finally waking up and realizing this is a problem. And that's why they said, well, we're going to unseal some documents. We're going to unseal some depositions, whatever ends up coming to the forefront. People are speculating it's not going to be much. And so we're going to have to wait for that. And we'll see what happens. But you do have that. As you can see, Trump not too happy. And then you also do have an interesting situation with AOC. So MTG, of all people, put forth the idea of cutting Israel's, what AOC is saying, the defense spending for their Iron Dome defense missile defense system by $500 million. And of course, you've got Ilhan Omar voting with MTG against Israel, giving Israel money. You've got Massey. I mean, you've got so many young people on the left. I mean, these are like, you've got the far left, the far right. They're entrenched anti-Israel. AOC voted against this initiative to basically defund what AOC says is the Israeli defense, the Iron Dome. And people are pissed. There's like a revolt against AOC. Now, it's the internet. Maybe this goes away, but it is interesting. I mean, there were only like 6 or 7 people that voted against it, but it is interesting that AOC would not vote against giving Israel money. And what she says is, it's because it's not offensive weaponry. It's for their Iron Dome missile defense system. And there's just so many young people on both sides that don't want to give Israel a penny anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how it develops in terms of the political future. But AOC being against this initiative by MTG, of all people, to defund, well, it's really not defunding, we're still giving them money, but to cut it back by $500 million. And she just gets a bunch of hate for it in terms of politics. And we know she wants to run in 2028. So this will be interesting to see how people, you could say, well, they'll forget about it in 2 weeks. That's what Trump is hoping. I mean, with these political issues, you get hate for them. Just hang on for 2 weeks. There'll be something else big that happens. And I mean, I think that's probably what Trump had hoped this past week, and everyone's still talking about the Epstein stuff. And so that's why they're kind of forced to try and some placation to the base. And the placation would be I should turn this back on. The placation would be the unsealing of court documents. That's not going to be good enough. It really isn't. But people have to understand, when it comes to Trump, we didn't think Trump had done horrible things on the island. It's the cover up for other people and possibly the foreign entities. That's the big issue. And obviously, if Trump had done something, I mean, it's just shocking because liberals are sitting on this. Trump wins and they're still sitting on this during a lame duck period. They're not going to release anything. If it's seriously that catastrophically bad for both parties, then we would have a government crisis. I mean, that we might still have one even if Trump is not implicated in this, maybe depending on how many people would be in this. And maybe that's why they're not being released, because the sheer number of people within US politics that were involved. I know people are trying to downplay it. They're saying, well, no, it's not really. This is the problem. For people saying, well, the lawyers have come out and they've said, it's not as bad. There's not many people involved. Well, then why wouldn't the administration be more transparent about that? And I guess you could say, well, Patel and Bongino, but the problem with Patel and Bongino is they became very adamant after getting in and saying we saw all the evidence. They became very adamant that Epstein killed himself and that's a kooky conspiracy and it's just not true. And they were like, we originally thought there was something weird with it when we were podcasters, and Bongino was a podcaster, he wasn't in it. But now that we know and we've seen all the evidence and we've seen the video, but then they released the video and it's edited by Adobe Premiere. And it's missing minutes, and they release it and they say this is all the video, and it's obviously not. So they're lying when they release the video. So how is there any trust here? How is there any trust on you telling us, well, this is just what it is? It's a big nothing burger. Epstein didn't black. There's no blackmail. It's just where there's smoke, there's fire. And you would think if there actually was genuinely nothing there, this would be squashed a lot quicker than it's been, because it's simmering. And because there's all this circumstantial evidence, it's why it's simmering. And in some cases, there's things that are not explainable, like Epstein getting the amount of money he got outside of him being financed by Les Wexner. And if that's the case, what is the point of that financing? And that ties into other things like the mega group, and you go down rabbit holes like that, and you start to understand, this is a big issue, and it's a big issue for foreign entities. And you know what? Maybe behind the scenes, the administration, Trump was like, all right, because this is the other thing. People are like, well, Trump was never really happy about releasing this stuff. It's important to understand, yes, you're right on that. He was always kind of coy about releasing it, but he had said, yeah, we'll release it. We're gonna bring stuff out. There's certain things that we're going to release, maybe in terms of the people that are involved. Some of them are innocent. I wouldn't want to release that stuff and have innocent people be listed. That would be bad. Of course, you could interpret that like Trump's talking about himself. But you don't even know what we're talking about in terms of, is he talking about just in the files? Are you talking about going to the island? Are you talking, so there's so much involved there. The point is that Trump was not like, oh, it doesn't exist. Why do people care about Epstein? This is horrible. Stop it. You're not my supporter if you care about Epstein and you care about this stuff coming out. He's done a 180 on that. Now, what happened behind the scenes to cause him to do a 180 on that? Well, we don't know. Is it some type of blackmail? Is it some type of person that Trump knows that could be in serious trouble if this gets released? Or is this just Trump just trying to cover for the uniparty, gets in and the people say, hey, this can't be released. It's going to be very bad. The government trust is going to be nothing. Your administration will not be able to run properly for the next 3 years. So there's a number of things to look at when it comes to this. It's a deeper level. And listen, I'm not trying to make excuses for Trump. I think the situation's been handled terribly. I think it's really bad that they're covering this up, and the Democrats covered it up, and none of the people demanded it. What about all these Democrats now saying, where's the list? Well, where was the list under Biden? At that point, there was the Maxwell trial. Where was the push from Democrats to see a list? The reason that they actually actively were against seeing a list, not only the Democratic politicians, the citizenry. The citizens were against it. They said, no, it's all a conspiracy. They talk about Bill Clinton. That's conspiracy. We don't want to see it. It would be a bad look for our party, So they didn't want to see it, and that's the big thing. And now suddenly they want to see it because it makes Trump look bad. But then they didn't want to see it when they were in office. Well, you could have released so much stuff on Trump if you really think he's in them. Why didn't you release it back in 2022, 2023, 2024? So that you see, and I understand, oh, it's uniparty. But really, if you hate Trump that much and you've got the thing that would destroy his entire legacy and you're going to keep that because it's this huge government conspiracy, that seems, there's big problems. I mean, either way, it's a huge problem. If there's that many people involved to where they don't feel they can release it, I mean, now we're getting down the rabbit holes and stuff, and I understand that. But I'm just, Trump is angry at Bondi, or I guess he's angry that people are blaming him instead of Bondi. That's the dynamic that's going on here. But I don't think he's going to get rid of Bondi. I thought it would have been kind of obvious to get rid of Bondi as the scapegoat, but that doesn't really solve the issue. And you could even argue, for as bad as Bondi or as robotic as Bondi has been throughout this administration, she very well might have had stuff that was to be released, and then behind the scenes something changed and they told her, you're not releasing this. Like, I listened to Tucker Carlson and he's like, well, she just lied. Really? Well, then she should be removed. She lied about what she had because she wanted to drum it up with hype. That doesn't make any sense. That's not what an intelligent person would do. At some point, the chickens are going to come home to roost. You're going to have to say, oh, I lied. I'm sorry. We don't have it. That's exactly what the memo was, supposedly. I don't buy that. If you have something and you say you have something to the public and you say we're reviewing it to be released, it was very likely that she had something. They were ready to release it. She had the okay, and then something behind the scenes happened that changed the element of it, and they're saying now you're not to release this. This is not getting released. Based on what you're about to release, we don't want that out to the public. And so Bondi ends up looking bad. But if she did lie and say she had something and she didn't and it was miscommunication, it's a horrible look. You're talking about it. You need to have you need the trust of the base, because that's really all this is trust, because we don't know how much stuff they're giving us, they're not giving us. So if you are misrepresenting what you have and lying, no matter what you bring forth now, it's going to be seen with, I mean, that's the thing with this Tulsi Gabbard thing with Russia. I mean, it's like, this is like the distraction 101. And sure, there's this stuff and you look into it and it seems like, well, maybe Obama, they were planting these stories about the Russia stuff. And we know how ridiculous that was. I mean, you want to talk about the Democrats crying about January 6th. We went through a 3-year investigation on a mythical Russian hoax where they said, I still don't understand the point of that. Did they like plant chips inside of our heads and made us vote for Trump instead of Hillary? Again, that just made no sense, the Russia stuff. But that was 3 years. The Mueller report, remember the investigation? That was a cloud over Trump's presidency for 3 years. They talk about being sore losers. That was a 3-year investigation, or a 2.5-year investigation. And I understand, Tulsi bringing it up now, but it's like trying to divert and deflect from the Epstein stuff. And so the impact of it is less because people don't think it's authentic. So that's the real problem with that. But this is just the updated things. And so, look, we'll see what happens with this. You've got Bondi now saying we're ready to move forward. We've told them to unseal it, and they're gonna have to. The court's gonna have to decide now to unseal it, and then if it doesn't, they're gonna have to appeal it, and we'll see what happens in terms of that. But either way, guys, make sure you like the video down below. Also follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.